It's Tuesday, July 17, and this is your Barbados Today Morning News Update. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good morning. Prime Minister Mia Mottley wants to see a drastic improvement in housing across Barbados, and she's hoping a new Town and Country Planning Act will help the government meet this objective. Speaking at a special stakeholder consultation on the reformation of the Town and Country Planning Act at the Lloyd Erskine Sandyford Centre yesterday, she said the new act is expected to go to Parliament before the end of November, and it must address worrying conditions in low-income housing districts now grappling with overcrowding, among other issues.
We have a situation in the Pine and Wildy, in Silver Hill and Gall Hill, and we wonder why we have the social problems that we have without recognizing that we have literally participated in the calcification of government policy and programming over the years. So what has happened? Houses and public housing that were built in the 1950s and 60s, not even as wide as this platform probably, a little deeper, parents, children, now holding 3 and 4 generations of people. If you don't go and see it yourself, you would never know, you would never imagine, you would never contemplate. And that's the benefit of the Rubbing Shoulders program. And our government is committed to reducing the density that some of our people are being forced to live under in some of these public housing estates. And what has happened is that in the absence of effective planning too, that people have done what they want to do in order to be able to accommodate the overcrowded aspects of those housing.
The consultation gave stakeholders the opportunity to discuss the new legislation, specifically as it relates to appeals, development control and management, development planning, and the physical development plan. Among concerns raised were the length of time it takes for decisions to be made by the department, issues relating to the appeals process, and the location of construction, among other things. Insisting that Barbados did not have the luxury of time, Prime Minister Mottley said that the over 5 decades-old legislation was in urgent need of review.
And therefore, I've asked that these consultations take place within the next 4 to 6 weeks, such that we can move to the stage of drafting, even if it means us having to engage in a special purpose framework for that drafting to take place. Because we want this legislation before Parliament, before the end of November, before we celebrate our 52nd birthday as a nation. These are things that will guide, we believe, the next decade at the very least of our development.
It's settled. Barbadian undergraduate students attending the University of the West Indies this September will not be paying tuition fees. The Mia Mottley administration will be footing the bill as outlined in the June 11 budget. This has put to bed concerns raised last week by a number of parents and students who had complained that they were being told by the university that they would have to meet tuition costs themselves in the absence of official word from government. Director of Communications at the Caville campus, Chelston Lovell, told Barbados Today yesterday that the university has received the necessary written authorization and the policy will be implemented at the start of the new semester. He, however, said government was yet to clarify what assistance it would provide for postgraduate students, but urged those desirous of pursuing such programs to apply, since they too could qualify for funding from the government. Barbadians are giving the thumbs up to government's decision to refund a portion of the road tax. Prime Minister Mia Mottley announced in an interview on Sunday evening that motorists who paid the tax between June 12 and June 30 would receive 75% of the sum paid once drivers write a letter to the Ministry of Finance. There was public confusion over the road tax, which was replaced by the June 1 introduction of a fuel tax. Transport and Works Minister Dr. William Duguid had publicly told motorists that if their road tax was due by July 1, they would have to pay up or park their vehicles until the start of the initiative. Motorists, however, later discovered that they were required to pay the road tax owed before July. Today, Barbadians welcome news of the refund.
It's good, but also I see that like I said before, if it didn't get paid back, it didn't really matter because the country is that's we're looking at the country in a whole. Because regardless, you gotta live on the circumstances and conditions. So you gotta do what gotta happen.
If she said that she can give back 75%, I have no quarrel with that. She have the authority to do whatever she in the position to say what she think and do what she want. So her choice, I ain't got no quarrel with it.
In another month, operators who produce electricity from renewable energy sources will know the new payment rate for selling power to the Barbados Light and Power under the Renewable Energy Rider Program. That's the assurance from Minister of Energy and Water Resources Wilfred Abrams, who said the government is in the process of embarking on several initiatives, including a review of the Barbados Electric Light and Power Act and the National Energy Policy 2017-2037 in a bid to facilitate a more efficient process in the issuing of licenses. Addressing a one-day high-level roundtable meeting on the renewable energy industry at the 3Ws Pavilion at the University of the Cavell campus, that's the University of the West Indies Cavell campus on Monday, Abrams said a review of the framework was necessary if the country is to achieve its target of 100% renewable energy usage by 2030.
There will be permanent rates for all grid-tied renewable energy systems, and there will be a clear implementation plan for achieving our 2030 target. That is our promise. In this regard, I requested my technocrats to, as a matter of urgency, produce a revised national energy policy which clearly shows the revised target of 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, the inclusion of local investors is critical to our restructuring process. Our administration will therefore pursue a policy which ensures that all Barbadians are treated as investors. It is also our intention to remain focused on investment in energy efficiency and energy storage.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional developments, the search is on for a new Prime Minister in Haiti. Jacques-Guy Lafontaine resigned from the top post at the weekend after days of violent protests against a hike in fuel prices. We get more in this report.
The President of the Republic accepted my resignation. As he told you, I remain at the service of the Republic.
Earlier this month, the Haitian government reduced fuel subsidies, triggering destructive protests which killed several people. The policy meant a price hike of 47% for diesel and 51% for kerosene. The impoverished country's citizens responded by barricading roads, looting shops and setting cars on fire. Embassies closed and flights were cancelled throughout last week. The government had tried to backpedal, temporarily reversing the policy, but protests continued.
Lafontaine says he's resigned as Prime Minister. We said the President has to do the same thing. He has to resign too.
But President Jovenel Moïse intends to stay. Hours after Lafontaine announced his resignation, he said he intends to form an inclusive government to alleviate the people's misery.
And further afield, residents in Japan hard hit by torrential rains are pointing fingers at the authorities as they pick up the pieces. Across western Japan this month, Floods and landslides killed more than 200 people and left over a dozen missing in what has been described as the country's worst weather disaster in 36 years.
It wasn't until mere minutes before a levee broke that an evacuation order was issued here in the small Japanese town of Mabi. The area was one of the hardest hit in the recent flooding, with at least 50 people killed and over a quarter of the town engulfed in water, reaching as high as 16 feet in some neighborhoods. But the risk of flooding here wasn't news to residents. They simply weren't prepared.
I heard about it back in elementary school, that this town would be in danger if the river flooded. It's always been a problem here.
So far, over 200 people have died in western Japan overall. As for the town of Mabi, Reuters' Mari Saito reports there were several factors that magnified its death toll.
What we've learned from reporting with residents here, through interviews with local politicians and by looking at public documents that were published before the recent flood, is that flood control plans to work on the river, the nearby river, have been delayed for decades in this area, despite heavy lobbying by local politicians and residents.
And that's news. But for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on iZoom Media in bus terminals, as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good morning.